rock and fire.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first Services Committee of 2019. If you would all please join me in a quick invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today to do the business of the people of Columbia County. We ask that you be with us as we go through this agenda and the following committee, and please make sure that all of the decisions we make are just and right in your sight. We ask that you be with all of us today as we go about our daily lives serving the citizens. We ask that you be with our first responders. They're always at the ready to protect and serve. We ask all of these things in your name. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible.
One second here to get everything settled. Let the record show that we have a full committee for our first meeting of the year, including a very nice addition in Commissioner Connie Melier as our new vice chairman. We will move straight through approval of the minutes for the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
So moved. Approval of this agenda. We have a couple of items, I believe, to add.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for your consideration, we have two items to add. It'll be I-3A and I-3B. First is a request for a sponsorship that we received on Friday, and the second one is an emergency road repair that will require some explanation that we also received on Friday.
All right, those will be added to items added to the meeting. Anything else regarding the agenda?
No, sir.
We're good? All right, moving straight on through. No presentations as I see for this morning. Nothing on the consent agenda. Straight into debate and new business. We go into internal services.
Yes, sir. The item I have is assumption of liability from Verizon. This is for 9 tablets that we will be receiving from the Georgia Department of Transportation. They have mandated that we implement some new dispatching software, and as part of that implementation, we will be receiving new tablets to be used in the vans. And they have already activated these tablets with Verizon, so we are required to take over the liability of the payments, the monthly payments for them by signing this form. It is no additional cost to the county, as they are just replacing current tablets that we have on our plan. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved. And technology services.
Okay. The first item I have for you is Unitrends backup appliance. This agenda item is going to authorize the purchase of Unitrends backup appliance to replace our existing backup solution. The existing one's over 5 years old and is in replacement. What we're looking at is a hybrid solution that's going to combine 80 terabytes of on-site storage with 40 terabytes of off-site storage that is cloud-based. This arrangement's important because it's going to provide us with a secondary backup in case of some kind of major disaster that affects the county, and that's something we don't have now, so this is a major step forward for us. An additional benefit of this device is that our security is enhanced. Data is going to be encrypted from beginning to end, from where we store it here to through transmission and back end once it's in the cloud. So it's a better solution across the board. IT worked with procurement on the bid process, and Mainline Information Systems came back as the best bid at $95,544.32. That is covered in IT's 2018 budget. IT will need to budget starting with fiscal year 19 and 20 for approximately $72,000 to support the device and the cloud storage. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
Is this a power source as well, or is it mainly just storage and?
It's going to connect into the power that we have in our data center.
$100,000 thumb drive. Okay.
But exactly, so a really nice thumb drive.
In other words, you need to really simplify it for Commissioner. Yes,
We want to discuss our technical skills, Mr. I can't charge my iPad.
That's not my fault. That's not my fault. Where does the cord go?
Next item on the agenda.
All right, next item is a agreement with Knology of Augusta for a conduit license. This is on behalf of Broadband Utility and Knology, which you might know as WOW, to lease one conduit in our conduit bank that we have along Evanstown Center Boulevard. Knology will pay a fee of $3,250 for this 850-foot section of conduit. The $6,500 amount that you might have seen on the staff sheet is typo, so I apologize for that. That needs to be corrected to $3,250. This is going to be a 20-year agreement with 2 5-year renewals after that. Chief benefit to the county is that they're going to use our conduit, and so they won't bore their own and potentially damage the sidewalks or cause other aesthetic or technical problems along Evanstown Center Boulevard. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
The next item I have is the renewal of an agreement with DB Integrations. In December of 2017, the Commission approved DB Integrations as our provider of AV equipment and support on an as-needed basis. Essentially, we're not paying them anything. It's just that when we need to have some work done on the AV equipment, such as in this room or projectors, things like that in the other rooms, we wanted to have someone on retainer, so to speak, as opposed to having to contact get quotes, and meanwhile projectors don't work for weeks while we gather this information. So this is all done through a bid process in 2017, and we're just renewing that. There is a wrinkle in the agreement because we're extending it for 6 months to bring us in line with the county's fiscal year. So instead of just renewing for another year, so that it ends when the county's fiscal year, as opposed to calendar year.
Move to consent with a question.
So they give you a hourly rate? Or you have a set hourly rate?
Yes, ma'am.
What they charge?
Yeah, an hourly rate discount on the equipment that we order. It's our advantage to do this.
How much have we spent with them in the last year?
Refer that to Sean.
It's around $16,000, and what that's going to do is replace 2 projectors in our office, upgrade that system, and then we're going to use one of those projectors for another use in another building that needs a projector, so one of those projectors will be repurposed.
We have a motion.
Second.
Move ahead. Third, trial agreement.
Yeah, last but not least, this agenda item is for a trial agreement between the county and Verizon to support the creation of web-hosted situational awareness software. Verizon has partnered with a company called VCore to develop the software, and they want a local government partner to assist with the development by permitting them to have access to some of our data and then performing testing on the product as it is developed. In essence, VCore has what they call an on-premise solution, which could on our network and work with our software, pull information from different sources in order to provide the first responders, the sheriff's office, 911, the fire rescue with basically a view of what's happening in a certain area. It would tie in with our security cameras that we have at various intersections, pull information from sheriff's deputies from the radio locations, things like that, in order to get a view of the general situation in the vicinity in case there was an emergency. What VCore and Verizon have done is teamed up, and they want to do a web-hosted version of that as opposed to an on-premise solution. So they need a partner, and we're familiar with them and that solution because of our involvement in Operation Convergent Response activity in Terry. So they approached us about this. We really have 3 options going forward here, supposing that we approve this, that you approve this, I should say. There's no viable software and the agreement terminates and we just walk away from it. They develop software and we opt to not use it in case we walk away, or they have software and we transition to an actual user agreement to use it. So really, if we work with them on this, then we're in a good spot in terms of have a good product. But right now, there's no guarantee of that. That's why it's a trial agreement. We're just saying that we want to work with them in order to see something that's going to benefit our first responders.
Is putting forth the effort into this, is this a burden on the staff? Is this extra work?
No, ma'am, not really. In fact, there's a lot that we gain from it. In fact, just in exploring this agreement, we've already figured out how to pull information from some of our systems that we haven't done before. So in theory, this did not work out, then we have the knowledge on staff here of how to pull information from the sheriff's office, from our 911 system, in order to incorporate it into another solution. So that's the kind of information that I like for my staff to know anyway, of how do we make the data that we've captured more viable. We talked about the backup solution before. Putting a lot of information on a server and keeping it there doesn't necessarily make it useful. The utility of the data that we capture is making it available. So we've already seen this just in exploring this opportunity. We figured out some things that we had not done before. So the staff is learning. There's no real cost as far as a financial outlay for this. Any knowledge we gain out of staff and the county going forward.
How long is the trial period?
I believe for 1 year.
And if we did end up using it, would it replace some software we already have, or it would be a new layer on top of?
It would be a new layer. We don't have any other software like this right now.
Consolidates all of our existing software, it doesn't.
But it wouldn't replace anything.
In essence, and that's exactly right, it consolidates several different tools that we're using right now under one umbrella. It makes it a lot more efficient.
What point would we spend money?
We would spend money if we got to the end of the trial period and we decided, wow, this is a really great tool that they've developed. We need to go forward with it. There's no guarantee that they would give us a year or two or three for free, but that's kind of what we're hoping, that in exchange for this effort, that they're going to send us that courtesy of giving a reduced rate or no rate for a couple of years going forward. But if we get to a point where we're using it and it's a viable software package, we have some outlay, but that would be.
But no commitment to that open-ended.
No commitment, no sir.
Discussion.
We can walk away at any time. We have all the agreement or the provisions in this agreement where we can sever it and walk away at any time.
And they can too.
And they can too.
Are they a solid company? And the reason I ask that question is, I realize there's no cash outlay on the county's part, but if something seems too good to be true, then it generally is.
Well, obviously Verizon is kind of solvent. I think we all pay a little bit to Verizon. vCore is a company that has a really good software package. I've seen it demonstrated, and I saw it being used at the OCR event back in November. So it's something I believe will work. Have to see what it looks like in the web-hosted environment when they put it. Speculative, but
But you can walk away at any point if it becomes cumbersome or doesn't.
we can walk, and we made sure that was in the agreement, that we could walk away at any point. We didn't want to be in a position where we had to commit the county to anything.
And all of our information is proprietary, right? They don't keep any of our data or use it for training going forward for some reason.
Right, and beyond that, our data is also going to be obsolete as soon. That's one of the interesting things about this, is that getting information from Motorola for a deputy's position when he's at a scene. If we cut access, which we have our hand on the plug essentially, to cut access to them at any time, they don't get any more information from us at all. So obviously they might have coordinates at a certain date and time, and which is all going to be, and I'm glad you asked that all the information is going to be in the Amazon Web Services government cloud, not the commercial cloud, but the government cloud, which has a much higher degree of security. That's something else that we insisted on that originally they didn't want to include, would have walked away if they had not.
What's your pleasure?
I make a motion.
To do what?
Move it to consent or?
Consent.
Yes.
Second.
So moved. Thank you very much, Mr. Blanchard. And I think we have a couple of items added. You want to take these, Mr. Johnson?
I'll present both of these. First item you have is a request for sponsorship for the Snowfest event that's coming up pretty soon. It's January the 19th. We received this request Friday morning from the organizer. This is the 7th annual Snowfest that's been here at Evanstown Center Park. this event has gone back and forth, whether it was, actually, the event was applied for by a charity or not applied for by a charity, but this year it was applied for by a for-profit company. They do say that they're giving money back to charity, but we have no way of really tracking exactly how much that is. We don't know what that is. But what they're asking for this year is the county to sponsor, as we have done in the past in some way, shape, or form. They're asking for the venue at no charge or a discounted rate, and then the same items they've received in the past, which is the green room, the ticket office, bleachers, a tent, bicycle rack, and then our portable restrooms. They're also asking that we waive the ticket fee. All of that said, this person has already paid for the park this year. So anything that you would do at this point would be a refund in that respect. And I will tell you that in the past, we have provided those additional items. We have provided those items to that vendor and to other vendors too, people that use the park. If it's a large event, sometimes we just kind of throw some of that stuff in. As far as the ticket fee itself, this was a little difficult because the event itself is reported to be free, but you pay for a wristband for rides, and that's not through our ticket system, so that'd be difficult to track. It's for your pleasure. Our recommendation, or at least our position, is he's already paid for the park, that we not go back on that. It's a for-profit event, even though he's giving money to charity, but that we provide these additional things as we have done in the past. But again, that's certainly up for debate or discussion.
What else would we provide to anybody else coming to do a project like this?
We've done this in the past, and I spoke to Mr. Luton about that. Mr. Luton, with other vendors, have we provided these things in the past? The bleachers and the green room?
I would say more.
When it comes to a sponsorship, so we would technically still have to be sponsors to waive those fees.
I don't think you don't have to be a sponsor to
All
waive
right,
the
just-
fees, but that's what
all
they're
right.
asking for, is that the county be a sponsor and waive these additional pieces. But no, you don't, we wouldn't have to sponsor.
Okay.
Based on what we've done with other folks' events over time, then I would make a motion that we do not waive the fee, but we do, if we provide these type services for other events, that we do so. So my motion is that we don't waive the fee, because it's a for-profit entity, but we would give bleachers use of the green room, the stuff, and tickets don't seem to be, even though it says no ticket fee, we wouldn't do that anyway in this situation, right?
I think it'd be very difficult for us to try to do that.
They're selling armbands. So I don't know if that motion is clear, but I make a motion that we do not waive the fee, but acquiesce on the other points. Since we do that for other people.
We do not waive the rental fee.
Correct.
However, we do support with any existing facilities and attributes that we have, any assets that we have currently in inventory. We do not spend any cost for
Correct.
any other assets
Fair enough.
that may have been requested, correct? That, I'm
These
wanting to
would-
clarify your motion.
These wouldn't cost us any extra. If we need to, I can go through them one more time. What he's asking for is the green room, the ticket office, some portable bleachers, a 20 by 20 tent, bicycle rack, and the use of our royal restrooms. And I think if you would tie your motion to that, we could certainly make this part of the record.
Tied to his request,
Yes, sir.
typically those items.
Yes, sir. So you'd be
Do we
denying.
have to rent royal restrooms?
That we have that restroom trailer.
Okay.
We would,
Okay.
this would be no additional cost to the county. We're not putting out any money for this event.
That was the item I had in mind, is making
Right.
sure we did not make any
Tie it to this.
expenses.
If you tie it to this, there is no additional expense to the county.
That would be my motion.
Your motion is tied to that specific list.
Correct. But not waiving the fee for the park.
I'll second that.
Where do you want it?
Consent.
All right,
Chairman?
so move to consent.
The next item we have is, this is one that's been extremely difficult for me over the weekend trying to figure out exactly how to do this. We have a road out in District 4, Commissioner Galey's district, off of Newman Road called Otis Way. It's a private road. There are approximately 52 residences on the private road. It's been a private road for some time. They have tried to keep the road up themselves, not done a very good job of that. The reason it's a private road, I need to give you some background on this. The reason it's a private road is because the developer, Otis Askins, actually had approval for flagpole lots out there back in the 90s. I believe it was in the 90s, had approval for flagpole lots, did not develop in time. The county changed the flagpole lot requirement. He sued the county, and the settlement was that he would not put in flagpole lots, but that he would also not be required to build the road to county standards. So he didn't build the road to county standards, and that it would remain a private road. Since then, he has deeded that private road over to an HOA that is now defunct. The president of the HOA no longer lives in the neighborhood. The HOA is not active, although they're active in I guess legally active because they've not dissolved, but they're not doing anything. They've not paid their taxes this year. By the way, the taxes on this road are $2 a year. So
They haven't paid them?
they haven't paid them this year. They may have a donation paid, somebody
I'll
pay
cover
it for them, but at any rate, it's not been paid this year. The situation that we have is the entrance to this road, the first 150 feet with all the rain we've had recently is completely washed. I say washed out, but it's turned into mud. They put rock down, and I went out myself Saturday and looked at it. I believe Commissioner Richardson went out and looked at it. I was out with Roads and Bridges, with our engineering staff. We've all looked at it. We've ridden the entire road, and the entire road needs repair. But I think that's beyond the scope of what we can do at this time on a private road. However, in the interest of public safety and the fact that we need to access those 50 residences on top of that hill with ambulances and fire trucks, we felt like it was incumbent upon us to do something. And again, it's very difficult being on a private road, putting county equipment on private property. That said, we were able to work with our legal staff yesterday and our folks in property acquisition and our engineering staff. And Mr. Castle sent me a temporary easement this morning, a temporary construction easement that would allow us approximately access to 150 feet of that road to be able to go in and just fix the entrance of it. And then we would do that. And once we did that, the construction easement would be over. We would not go back and maintain it or anything. Again, my purpose here is only to be able to get access to those houses in the interest of an emergency. That's it. And I've struggled with this because typically we wouldn't do anything on a private road. We tell them to do it themselves. But as you know, government's first responsibility is the health, welfare, and safety of our citizens. And in this case, I think that's being compromised, and they don't have the means to fix it. We have got an estimate. We will be doing it with Roads and Bridges staff. Mr. Holloway's here. I think he's already got his folks already mobilized. Should you approve this, we're already mobilized and ready to go. The cost would be minimal. I think we'd probably have less than $3,000 in materials, somewhere around that neighborhood, around $3,000 in materials. Of course, our time to do that. And again, it would be a one-time thing. That said, we had a meeting yesterday about dirt roads in the county, and we have several. We have 38, I believe, county-owned dirt roads and 41 or 2 private dirt roads in the county that are left. We're going to put in place a strategy about how we can start getting some of those dirt roads off of that dirt road list as we pave and go forward. That'll be obviously with fundings, with the T-SPLOST upcoming, the SPLOST upcoming. But we need a strategy about how to fix these. And this will be a road that we'll have to talk about again in the future. But at this point, my recommendation is that we make the emergency road repair on Otis Way in the interest of public safety under the temporary construction easement and allow our Roads and Bridges folks to do the work.
Will the 150 feet solve the problem?
It's going to solve the problem of getting in and out. I mean, the road's still bumpy.
Well, bumpy doesn't matter.
Well, when I say bumpy, it's so bumpy that you have to go extremely slow to even get up the road. It's that when I say bumpy, it's got holes all in it. They've gone out there with box blades because they're trying to maintain it themselves. And when you take a box blade over the center of the road, you don't realize you're inverting that road. So you're taking the crown out. When you take the crown out, it doesn't drain properly.
Pools of water.
So now it's pooling water to the middle. That's creating potholes. They have ditch sections all up and down the road that are not being maintained or being maintained improperly. So we've got stormwater issues, although that's not in the stormwater district. We have stormwater issues there. But again, at this point, we just feel like it's incumbent upon us to fix enough to be able to get a truck through there.
An emergency public repair is one thing. Have we entertained long-term solutions? I mean, let's take care of what we need to first, but in this discussion, it sounds like you've been thinking a little bit more.
We have, I mean, I think ultimately you're probably going to have to, obviously we wouldn't have to condemn it, they'd probably give it to us, but we would probably have to take this road at some point going forward. But I don't see taking this road and putting it in front of those 38 other roads that we have to get paved. But what I've tasked the staff with is going through that list and trying to figure out the ones that we should be paving first, whether it's the highest traffic roads, whether it's the ones in worse shape. Maybe it's a quick fix. Maybe it's a little short piece that we can fix with a little amount of money. So they're working on that list, and we'll be updating that list. This is a road that'll come back to us in the future, I'm sure.
I'm moved to consent that we fix the 150 feet based on your recommendation.
How many homes are down that road?
52. And they're all modular homes or mobile homes.
Move to consent. Second, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so move on to consent. I definitely think that we should consider specifically, as you say, this is going to come back to us. If nothing else, a regular, consider acquiring it and putting it on our regular maintenance schedule if it is in the shape that you make it sound like. I think maybe with the HOA not being able to pay their $2 tax.
Careful paying it, you may own it if you pay it.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Put on your tax.
I'll give it to the county.
We'll take a look at that going forward, and I would ask, as you move this item to consent, obviously it won't become effective until you vote on it next Tuesday, because it is an emergency situation, and we have 3 that have agreed to it. Commissioner Richardson has already agreed to it in theory, although he's not voting on this committee in Commissioner Galis's district. We would like to go ahead and move out today, since it is an emergency repair.
Please do. In interest of public safety, go ahead and do that.
Thank you. That's all I have for that item.
Thank you very much. And now we go into reports.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, committee members, just for your information, the personnel savings so far this year, you can see that our general fund savings are $474,000. Obviously, we've exceeded our $350,000 goal. We'll continue to monitor all these positions as they come up. I will say that we've hired a few folks, but still it's very difficult to find good workers in this economy. So we're continuing to look, but the good thing about that is when you do have a position that's open, although we're having to put forth a little extra effort to kind of make sure the job gets done, we are having personnel savings when we're not filling that position. That's just for information.
May I ask, regarding the elected officials?
Yes, sir.
Department savings, the fringes savings, 37%, is that just a calculated average?
It's calculated average. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Next item.
The first report I have for your information is the budget report. This is through the month of December. We should be operating around 50%, and as usual, I've listed some of the major funds for your review. Everyone is currently operating well within.
Any questions? My favorite report.
Yes, the sales tax report. We have received funding through the month of November. That check was just over $1.8 million, and our annualized percentage increase is now 6.71%.
What is the status of our active financial, whatever we're calling that? Whatever the bill says, we title that person.
Now that we're in the first of the year, we're going to go ahead and make the request to go forward. We have the resolution in place that allows me the opportunity to get that data. So I'll be requesting that data from the Department of Revenue. I think it's going to probably take a while to get it, but we'll be requesting that data soon. We'll get that, we'll analyze that, and then I'll have to report that back to the commission in an executive session, according to the law.
Is that done monthly or quarterly? Or when you get a report from the Department of Revenue?
I think they just give it to you one time. What they're giving us is they're giving us a list of active businesses in Columbia County that are paying taxes. They're not giving us the amount, which is what we really wanted, but having this first list, they had that old BOTS program. This is not a whole lot different than that, where they provided that list.
Right.
But hopefully this one's going to be more up to date, and it's going to allow us to cross-reference it with our records. Last time we went through this, it was not as easy to get the information, and we found out that our Lowe's here in Evans did not have a Columbia County tax certificate, so probably was not remitting tax to Columbia County. They never confirmed nor denied that, but they have one now. So
We are up 6% when we were up 2 or 3.
So
I think
those may be, I think they'll start making a difference once we get the information, but I don't think it's a quarterly or a monthly thing. I think you ask for it one time, you get it one time.
So if you want 6 months later to go
I have to ask for it again.
when you ask for it.
It's a snapshot of what the most.
The here and now.
The middle.
That's correct.
Middles.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Investment report.
Yes, the final report is the investment summary for your information.
Any questions about any of those reports? Are there any commissioner or public statements?
We make a code enforcement law rule that it can't rain for 2 weeks?
Dana, can you enforce that?
All right. You have a second on that? Any other business come before this board? Seeing nothing, I will call us adjourned. Lear, when would you like to begin your committee?
5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes is good. Want to change seats?
Commissioner Malier.
Want to change seats? No, but if you'd like to, you can.
Makes me a minute.
Meeting of the Development Engineering Services Committee. I'm Connie Malier, your new chairman for this committee. I see that I'm labeled as chairwoman on the agenda. We can just go by chairman. We don't need any special titles, if you don't mind.
Chairperson.
Chairman is fine.
Chairman's fine.
And our vice chair, Commissioner Allen, is with us today, as well as Commissioner Duncan, Commission Chair Duncan is with us. So we will skip the invocation and pledge, as we've taken care of that already this morning. We have a quorum. Let the record show that we have all three of us here. And do we have any additions to the agenda?
To approve previous meeting.
We have to approve previous meeting minutes. Sorry.
That's okay.
So moved.
Second.
Done.
Did I say done?
There you go.
Or so moved.
You are the
All
final
right,
word.
I apologize. This is my
Good.
first. This is my first one. We're gonna work through it. I'll get all the words down. Now we'll go to approval of the agenda for this meeting.
We don't have any additions. It's ready for your approval.
On.
I don't need a.
Move on.
No, ma'am.
Moving on. Okay.
Have it in my 4 years, so.
So let's see. Do we have any unfinished business? Then let's go directly into new business, engineering services.
Ma'am, item I2A1 is to authorize the chairman to execute the right-of-way mowing and maintenance agreement with Georgia DOT to maintain landscaping and irrigation within the state's right-of-way in conjunction with the State Route 47 I-20 bridge replacement. Anytime you do a roundabout on a state right-of-way, for support, they require you to do the mowing and maintenance agreement because it's going to be planted similar to what we have out there at Pumpkin Center. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second, do we have anything in the Appling roundabout? Do we have any, haven't been out there in a little while, decorations?
Yes.
Decorations.
Yeah, we did.
Christmas?
Yeah, you know, do we have a
We-
tree,
we-
wreath?
Yeah, we re-landscaped it last year under a mowing and maintenance agreement. When they first installed it, nothing was growing; it was all dying. So Rosen Bridges went out there and we fixed it and added some irrigation. It looks really good.
Didn't Mr. Morris ask about a flagpole at one point? Is that something that we not want to do for some reason?
Well, it's within the clear zone to put something like that into state right of ways. I mean, they'll allow it, but at the time it wasn't really desirable. So
Visibility reasons. For the most part.
it's more for somebody running through there and giving them something to hit.
Giving them a target.
Never happens, right?
No,
Oh.
no, that's it.
All right, thank you.
So this is for us to maintain the state right-of-way
Yes.
for a period of 50 years.
It's renewable every year, but basically, if you want the DOT to maintain it, there's going to be grass that they mow, which is more likely weeds and Johnson grass. But if we want decorative, like this being one of our gateways, then you're going to be required to maintain
So
it.
that gives us permission to gussy it up a little bit?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, that's a technical term.
thank you.
Better than decoration. Gussie. I like that.
We could put signs, like wayfinding signage, gateway beautification.
We don't have money for the wayfinding signs.
Yes, yes, we could.
If that ever came
we could put all
about.
kinds of new assets in there.
But it does give us permission to do so.
No, it doesn't give us permission to do so, but what it gives us permission to do is if we want to put those signs in, we would submit an application to the DOT that this would be executed as well. So whatever we put in the state right away, we would have to maintain.
That would be a separate.
Yeah. It would be covered under this agreement, but we haven't gotten permission to put anything in yet.
Direct staff to gussying up options. You're allowed to do that.
We will address that in the future. Gussying up, it sounds like a grand idea.
You're in the process of gussying.
So
very
we have a,
Gussy on.
You have a motion and a second.
in a second, so moved. What's next?
Okay, item I2A2 is the adoption of Resolution 19-02 to amend streetlight district number 376I for the Ridges to add one more additional light on Windermere Street with the installation cost of $468.19 and a monthly charge of $16.67 per month. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
Item I2A3 is for the installation of several intersection safety lights, Evans to Locks Road at Meldon Road. Washington Road at Ridge Road, South Old Bel Air Road at Old Bel Air Lane, the northern and southern intersections, Evans Locks at King Taylor, Old Evans Road at DeSoto Drive, and Wheeler Road at Forest Court. This will be a total monthly cost of $171.22. They're putting on existing poles, so I don't think there's an installation cost at this point. At least Georgia DOT did not, or Georgia Power did not inform us of one, but staff recommends approval.
These are new lights, not replacement?
Yes, you know, we were kind of tasked with looking at some of the intersections that are out and like these darker areas for intersection safety improvements. And this is one of the things that the commission asked us to do. This was the latest round.
Move to consent.
Second, 20 years ago, I would not have noticed we needed them. Now I do.
And these are evaluated, I'm looking here, it looks like they're evaluated on 6 criteria,
Right,
but they only have to meet 1 of the 6?
correct.
But most of these on the list look like they meet 3 or more of the criteria.
Right.
Being a connector road, a certain amount of traffic, depths, that
Right.
kind of. You have a motion and a second?
ma'am.
So moved.
Yeah. Item I2A4 is for the Board of Education, the Board of Commissioners, excuse me, to authorize the chairman to sign letters informing EPD that Chairman Duncan is the new chairman of the Columbia County Board of Commissioners, and to redesignate the Engineering Service Division Director, me, position as the duly authorized representative for Signatory for Columbia County for certification and submittal of all reports, information, applications to Georgia EPD. Staff recommends approval.
Want this?
Repeat that.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
Late for that.
Item I2A5 is for the reclassification of the vacant erosion sediment and pollution control plan reviewer position from grade 20 to grade 24. This will better align the position with education and certification requirements. Given the position was currently occupied from a long-term employee, there'll actually be a savings of about $8,500 a year. Staff recommend.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved. And development services.
All right, the first item we have is alcohol beverage license for Namaste and Indian Street Food LLC. Namaste Indian Street Food LLC applied for an alcohol beverage license for an on-premise consumption of beer and wine at 4272 Washington Road. 5. The applicant has provided all the required information and posted the notice of the property January the 4th. Staff recommends approval of the license at the February 5th, 2019 Board of Commission meeting.
Have a motion?
Move to consent with a question. Where is this?
It's over in the Public Shopping Center.
The public shop center. Okay.
Second.
72.
So moved. Last one?
Recall last year we created a ordinance to allow occupation tax and a business license to work in the county. This hall has been renewing OG taxes and business license. We've discovered our new business license code required every business to have a business office or location or a registered agent inside Columbia County. I'm sorry, clean your ears.
Arrogant Clemson people.
This has caused problems for some of the businesses, not having somebody actually living in the county. Did look at this. We've met with our attorney. State law covers this. It requires you to have a registered agent or an office location in the state of Georgia. What we're asking to do is approve ordinance number 19-01, amending Chapter 22, Article 1, Section 22. Basically, we're removing that section from the code. Require 2 readings.
So it can't go on the consent agenda, it has to go to
No.
debate.
No, go to debate.
So the 2 readings would be today and then
No.
to commission. meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
The only change is in red highlighted. Move to debate.
The red strike is
Got it.
second.
Move to debate. Any legal matters today, Mr. Driver? Staff reports, development services?
All right, the first one we have is the 2017-18 Development Service Monthly Report. Attached is a copy of that for your information if you have any questions.
Just a quick question on the first. Should it be year-to-date 2018 on the right?
It should
That
be,
looks like a
that's
typo.
correct. The numbers are correct.
And forgive me, I'm getting up to speed on these. It looks like building permits were down about 20% year to year,
That's correct.
but fire marshal inspections were up.
That's correct.
Is there a reason for that?
No. They were doing a whole lot more on the commercial side. You see it on the commercial side.
The darn contractors just didn't have their act together, and the fire marshal kept having to go back and re-inspect about 15 times?
I wouldn't say that about them, but
So that's not unusual.
no.
That, okay. Okay, next.
All right, the next one we have is the Development Services, January 8th. Development Service Financial Report, and a copy of that is attached for your, if you have any questions.
Is there anything interesting in there that should be pointed out?
Nothing interesting stands out that would draw much attention.
Do you have any?
Seems to be right on target.
All right, moving on to the next item,
Planning services.
Planning Services Report.
Thank you. Two reports I have for you, the plan review workload measurements and the planning department workload measurements. The average plan review time for November 2018 in calendar days. And of note, in the planning department workload measurements, the number of requests for 2018 year-to-date were the highest they've been in the previous 3 years. We're just handling that many more requests. No trends. We do analyze for trends to see what sort of ordinance adjustments need to be made, and we recommend, and no trends were noticed that we just volume.
When I look at some of the higher volume months, August, for example, it looks like your turnaround time was faster on the months that you had more items coming through. Is there a reason? Forgive me if that's a dumb question. I'm just
No.
trying to figure it out.
I noticed that a couple months ago, actually, but really, there's really no reason for that. It could just be the simplicity of the submittals. Get higher quality submittals sometimes than other
They're
times.
quicker to turn around. That makes sense. All right, is there anything else on that report?
No, ma'am.
All right, are there any public comment? Is that how I ask for public comment? Is that it? Okay.
Works.
Is there any need to go to executive session? Any further business? Have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I can do
Committee,
it.
you can do that.
Adjourn.
Done.
Thank you.
One thing that I was taught early on is
Motions.
Robert only has rules to a certain degree that we apply here.
Okay.